we'll bring this meeting of the Koochiching County Board of Commissioners to order. It will be held virtually, and we'll get things going. We've got all five of the commissioners here, so let's see. We'll start things off. We'll approve the proposed agenda with one addition of adding the Koochiching Development Authority meeting on December 15th, along with our regular board meeting.
I'll move for the addition, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I've got a motion by, that was Wade, right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second?
McBride, second.
Okay, I've got a second by Commissioner McBride. I'll call for the vote. Commissioner Pavlik?
Aye.
Commissioner McBride?
Aye.
Commissioner Shobham?
Aye.
Commissioner Scotty?
Aye.
Do we need to make a motion to close the session?
Yes, we do. You do. We do, yeah. Motion to close? I'll second. I think we lost the chairman. Yeah, it was quiet. Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I hope that doesn't happen too often. Commissioner Scotty, you and I are...
Well, yeah, I'm here, Kevin.
Okay, and I'm an I. Okay, we'll close. We need a motion for that, right, Jen?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll ask for a motion to close the meeting to discuss pending threatened litigation.
McBride calls. Motion.
Okay, I've got a motion by Commissioner McBride. Do I have a second?
Pavlik, second.
Okay, thank you, Wade. I'll call for the vote. Commissioner Pavlik?
Aye.
Commissioner McBride?
Aye.
Commissioner Shobham?
Aye.
Commissioner Scotty?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Meeting will be closed until we're done discussing litigation.
Okay. Think we're returning to the main meeting?
Yep.
Okay, we'll see if we lost everyone else.
Look at the crowd. Oh,
think we're all still here, Jenny.
Oh, good.
We've been working while we've been waiting.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now we just need a motion to reopen the regular meeting.
Go ahead. Mr. Chairman, I move that we reopen the meeting. I'll second that we come back from the little zone there.
Okay, I've got a motion by McBride, second by Pavlik. I'll call for the vote. Pavlik.
Pavlik, aye.
McBride.
Aye.
Shobham.
Aye.
Scotty.
Aye.
And I am an aye. Meeting is reopened. Now we need to do a vote on the two commissioners that are voting.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would move chairman to appoint himself and Commissioner Pavlik to represent the county in pending claim in mediation.
Okay, I've got a motion by Commissioner McBride. Does that sound like the motion we were looking for, Jen? Don't hear ya.
Sorry, I had to unmute. That's correct. The only thing that I would add is to also authorize the commissioners to engage in mediation and make a settlement.
Okay, that needs to be it. Okay. Got a motion by Commissioner McBride. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Jason. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call to the vote. Pavlik.
Aye.
McBride.
Aye.
Schobum.
Aye.
Skoye.
Aye.
And I am an aye. Anything else? Or does that take care of it?
That's it.
Okay. We'll get back to our regular board meeting then. COVID-19 update.
Good afternoon. I'll go through some of the statistics here, and then I do have a graph that I will share with you, and we can kind of take a look at what's happening locally. For Minnesota, the positive cases right now are at 282,916 cumulative cases, with newly reported 6,423. There's been 3,891,159 tests administered. There is 233,847 people no longer needing isolation, and a cumulative deaths of 3,303 for the state. Within Koochiching County, we currently are at 332 cumulative cases with 5 deaths. There are 227 people no longer needing isolation. That is the number from last Thursday when they do their weekly update. The 19 to 34-year-olds remain the highest age group. And if you remember, the percent positive that I've been giving you the last few weeks is usually been about 3 point something. Today it is 4.5. The state's percent positive has run around 5.3, and it now is at 7%. So I will share this graph here with you. Well, let's see here. Jenny, don't I just hit share content?
You're muted, Jenny.
Thank you. You go ahead and share content, and then you usually have to click what you want to share. Like you'll see different things that are up. Okay.
Right, it says.
Let's see. View Capital Francis. It's not, that picture is not showing up in my,
I might be able to pull it up.
well, let's see here. Let's try this instead. Jenny, do you have it in your email?
Yep, I do. All right, I'll see if I can share it.
Okay. Okay.
Are you seeing it? Perfect.
Yes, we can see that. This is a graph that John Decker has started and maintained since about July 4th, and the red line is the positive COVID cases for Koochiching County, and you can see that it was rising till the state mask mandate in July, and then it evens off a bit until school starts. It starts climbing again, and from Halloween now to deer season, it has really risen quite a bit. That is the red line. The green line is the patients no longer needing isolation as of last Thursday. The other two dotted lines are the trend lines. If it were to, that is what they would expect it to do. As you can see, that we've risen quite far from the trend lines, and also you notice those two trend lines have been getting further apart, and as they get further apart, that is definitely what's going to affect healthcare response. And then as the red line separates further from the green line, that also is impacting our healthcare personnel and facilities. And this is expected to continue to rise from deer season and then Thanksgiving. If people are not following the recommendations, it should, up to 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, we should see another sharp rise in the red line. Does anybody have any questions?
Oh, Kathy, this is Rick. So as far as our healthcare capability, what's the hospital utilization rate at right now as far as like staff beds?
I don't have that right in front of me. I do know that there is not. We of course don't have any ICU beds locally, and we've had to pick up some other patients that are not needing that level of care from other facilities because of other facilities being full.
So, when you say other facilities, like Bemidji, Duluth?
Yes, Bemidji is having a very difficult time place. In fact, that's who we've taken is Bemidji, Beltrami residents here locally, and Duluth is also having difficulty. I know of a person who was in a very severe car accident that needed to be shipped to an ICU and had to wait in the helicopter while they found a bed for that person. They didn't think they were going to be able to send them to Duluth, but it did work out that they went there. So all the healthcare systems are suffering, not just from lack of beds, but also from lack of staff to take care of them, to take care of the patients.
Yeah, I guess when I look at a hospital bed, I'm talking about staff beds. So you're right. That would be, not just having a physical bed, but having the staff for it.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Can I stop sharing the graph?
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner McBride. Kathy, just looking at the red line, from you can go to, say, November 3rd, we're around, even say November 7th, we're around 200. And today, the 23rd to 24th, we're at 332. I mean, that's 132 people in about a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Very scary, because now you know that it's going to, deer season is just getting over, and so you can figure up to 2 weeks after that, there will be more cases from people congregating at shacks and being out during deer season. And then we roll right into Thanksgiving, which then could cause another spike. So yes, it's very scary. Anything else? Right.
Did we lose Kevin again? No, there he is.
Well, thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome. On a positive note, we are getting a lot of information and there's a lot of planning going into the vaccines being administered to people. So that's exciting. That's, going to be coming fairly soon. Hopefully people will be confident in getting that vaccine. There's still quite a percentage of people that are saying they're not going to get it right away. They're going to wait. Again, it's going to go to our healthcare providers and long-term care facilities first, and then vulnerable people. So it'll be a while before it reaches the general public, but it will eventually. And the rates for are up about 95% successful. So it's they're good vaccines. So hopefully people will have confidence in that.
Kathy, have you been given a timeline on receiving the vaccines?
They're expecting to start with the healthcare people around the first of the year, possibly the end of December, and then go on from there. They're anticipating that just the regular general public will have it by like June, have it available to them in June.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything for Kathy? Okay, thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Approve minutes of November 3rd, 2020.
I'll move, Mr. Chair. This is Wade.
Thank you, Commissioner Pavlik. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Skoye. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Pavlik?
Pavlik, aye.
Bragg? Brian?
Aye.
Thank you. Shobham?
Aye.
Skoye?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Financial business.
Mr. Chair, I'll move on 6A, B, and C, Courthouse, Highway, and Health and Human Services.
Okay, I've got a motion by Commissioner Shobham to pay courthouse claims, highway claims, and health and human service claims.
McBride, second.
Second by Commissioner McBride. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Pavlik?
Aye.
McBride?
Aye.
Shobham?
Aye.
Skoye?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Approve void of warrant.
Move, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Commissioner Shobham.
McBride, second.
Second by Commissioner McBride. consider 2021 through 23 Rainy River Community College nursing program funding request.
Mr. Chair, with the discussion, I would move to fund that request.
A motion by Commissioner McBride. Do I have a second?
I will second, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner McBride, discussion.
I just see, who did I see? I see Brad was on the line here. I don't know if Brad has anything to add, but I think we met with Brad Crassaway and Danita a couple weeks ago and had good discussion and learned a lot. This healthcare nursing program and everything at Rainy River is near and dear to me, and I think it's one of the best things we can do, the best $20,000 a year we can spend for economic development in this county.
Okay, yeah, I see Brad is still online, I think. I see his name up there anyhow. Are you still there, Brad?
Yep, I'm still here. I'm here open for questions, Chairman.
Anybody have anything they want to ask Brad or Commissioner McBride? That is a good program. It's been kind of a feather in the college's hat, and I guess a feather in our hat. Making sure they get the money to keep that program going. So,
Mr. Chair, if I may, Brad, maybe you can back this up, but we discussed too real quickly that since we started this program, I don't know how many years it is, but I think we figured out somewhere around close to $1 million in yearly wages added to this community.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Janita did that math for us. And I just want to thank the county for all their help in this one and starting this whole program up. It has been one of the most successful ones we've had within our 5-college district.
That was local wages too, right, Commissioner?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, if there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Commissioner Pavlik.
Aye.
Commissioner McBride.
Aye.
Commissioner Schobel.
Aye.
Commissioner Skoye.
Aye.
And I am an aye. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Consider Soil and Water Conservation District Geotech Engineering Funding Request. Anybody from Soil and Water?
Hi, Kevin. It's Pam, and I believe Eric is on the line as well. So this request comes from a number of properties along Shorewood Drive that have contacted the Soil and Water over the past year. A couple of property owners earlier than that. But they have been seeking assistance with trying to assess some severe slope stability issues that are threatening some homes and that entire, at rough guess, is about 1,300 linear feet. And so we did put a request into our Technical Service Area 8, which is a 9-county joint powers board, for the engineer to come up and do an assessment of that. He did do field visits and wrote up an initial report, but it was determined that soil borings were really going to be critical to determining whether some of his potential fixes were feasible. So it was recommended that we look into geotechnical engineering services to provide that service. We did receive 2 quotes. The lower quote was from an established firm, WSB and Associates. They've done a lot of work in our 9-county region on similar projects. And that quote came in at $19,000. And of course, the Soil and Water doesn't have that money in-house, but so we did do an appeal to the City of International Falls, the county, and the Soil and Water District, as well as the Technical Service 8 board. So currently we have a pledge of $2,000 from the City of International Falls, and we have a pledge of $2,000 from the Soil and Water Conservation District, and we are asking the county board for a similar or any pledge that would help these landowners get that much needed assessment, so then we can formulate the next step in terms of what the projects would look like. I do have a formal request in for the balance of the bill to be paid out of there's an engineering pot of money that is slated for 2021, and I do have a request in for the TSA 8 board to cover the balance. So that's the request to this board. And Eric's on the line as well. He's our resource conservationist if there's other questions.
So this is Wade. My question would be, if we match the city, then you're comfortable you can get the rest?
I am, Wade, thank you. We have, if the city can pledge to, if the county can pledge to, and the Soil and Water can pledge to, there's 6,000, and I do feel very confident that the remaining 13 would be able to be covered by TSA 8.
Well, I'm willing to move on that, Mr. Chair.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Savage. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Second by Commissioner Schobel. Discussion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Pam, now you said about 1,300 lineal feet. The property owners along there, obviously there's going to be access granted for soil borings, and we haven't started any of that request yet, have we?
That's correct. Right now the schedule is looking at Wednesday of next week, but Eric has already made contact. We don't know where the engineers are going to select for boring, so he did go ahead, and maybe Eric, you can speak on this, but it was my understanding that he would be contacting all of the property owners just so that they were aware and would grant permission if their property were selected. Eric, do you want to weigh in on that?
Sure. Yeah, I basically talked to the landowners from the boat landing on east to about the kind of behind the bowling alley area. There's maybe close to 10 houses there, and if their properties were to be selected for soil borings, they would feel comfortable with having the engineering doing soil borings at those locations.
Anybody else have any discussion?
Just looking at, I haven't seen them in person, but looking at the pictures here, it looks like it's somewhat urgent here to get something going.
Yeah.
Yes, it's been on a lot of people's minds and radars, and we worked a number of years ago on one of the properties and actually did soil borings, but we weren't able to come up with feasible projects for that area. So I think this is a great next step that will give us a bit more clarity and provide a basis for trying to go after any eligible grant funds to help offset some of the costs of actually fixing whatever the fixes may be determined to be. So,
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
You know, and I think, Pam, and you remember here a few years back, the issue that Drain Lake Medical Center had, the issue with the broken water line. I think that with the property had shifted, but also all the way along that riverbank, all the way west, as far as the golf course, there's noticeable slumping of that bank. So, I mean, it's going to be an ongoing problem.
It is, and I have clued in the IJC team as well. As part of the Water Levels Committee, we've discussed this project. We did invite the Army Corps of Engineers to the meeting that we had with the landowners this past March, and Scott Jutilla is their hydrologist that works on our committee. He's also offered his assistance on information. He's worked in the red, very familiar with our area. So I think we've got a lot of folks that are offering their input, assistance. They've been very helpful. The Colonel for the St. Paul District as well. So hopefully we're crossing our fingers that this assessment will give us some answers that we just haven't been able to find.
Anybody else have
this is Jenny, and the only other discussion that I have is I just want to, this is, has not been budgeted, but we do have some funds in administration contingency for projects like this. And so I just want to make sure that that is okay to use those project funds for this allocation. If we could add that to the board, the motion.
Yeah, I'll do that then, Jenny. Thank you.
Thank you.
And as seconder, I will do that, or Commissioner Pavlik will pay for it.
All right, any further discussion? All right, I'll call for the vote. Pavlik.
Aye.
McBride.
Aye.
Strobel.
Aye.
Scory.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. All right. Thanks, Pam. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you all very much.
Approve use of administration project funds for court chamber improvements. Jen or Dean, do you have anything?
Yes. So, Mr. Chair, I think Dean is going to give you a little bit more details on this, but we have been asked by the courts to do some improvements to an area that is in bad need of some remodeling. And we think that this will be, some of the costs will come into the 2020 budget, and some will be in the 2021 budget. So we think the estimated cost is, we don't have any quotes yet, but we're in the process of getting those quotes, is between 20, maybe 30. We're thinking about 25,000. So I'm asking that we use 10,000 of project funds, project administration funds in 2020, and then we've adjusted the 2020 budget for complex. So Dean can maybe go over some of the things that need to be done in court.
Yeah, sure.
And also, just to back up a little bit, so we do not pay for any of the furnishings that go into court, but we do pay for the facility improvements. And there haven't been a whole lot of additional expenses. I know Dean has done a few improvements there due to COVID. And I've had, the only other invoice that I've had that has been in addition has been for some microphones that sort of went on the stopped working. I think it was because they were sanitizing so much anyway. So there was some new court microphones, but overall, we don't have a lot invested in that court area.
Yeah, and to add to that, everybody, it's the issue of Judge LeDuc being retired now, and he has left his post there, and so with the new judge coming in, Judge Shimon is asking for some upgrades and things to make the space his own, so to speak. And a lot of those needs are the normal stuff that you could imagine, some flooring, some ceiling work, painting, that kind of thing. And to the extent of some of the walls might have to be pulled down because Judge LeDuc had put some wood on them, and they would like to remove the wood off of there and just go with a sheetrock style wall. And then we're going to also add to this the recorder's office as well, with a fresh coat of paint, some flooring there as well. And so if you could envision it wouldn't be a real expensive deal, but I mean there's enough there to, it's going to take a little time, and that's why we're looking at, this is probably going to run through into the 21 budget to accomplish it all. Due to the fact that a lot of these people out there, the trades and things, they are busy doing other jobs, and so to get them on the site will be difficult to get them to go. So we did have a contractor look at it to begin to get us a quote so that we know what we're looking at, and it's probably due. It's been that way for a long time, and so a good freshening there with the new judge would probably be a good idea.
So, Jenny, budget-wise, you're okay then?
Yes, we have actually considerable amount of funds left in our miscellaneous project contingency, and actually we've got like $80,000 left. So there's certainly sufficient funds there.
All right, thank you. I'll move then, Mr. Chair.
By Commissioner Pavlik. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Commissioner McBride. Jen, should we have not to exceed or?
I think if we do a budget adjustment of $10,000, moving it from the where are we? We're moving it from the administration project fund into complex in the amount of $10,000.
Okay, commissioners. Not to exceed $6,000. You just made a deal.
Yeah, I guess I would, kind of look to Dean for that. I mean, I suppose it's kind of hard to get an exact figure. So, yeah, it's real difficult. Anytime you get into remodelings and things, you never know what you're going to run into. There's going to be smalls that jump up, such as lighting, data cords, things of that nature. A plug-in here or there. And to what extent, when they begin to freshen the walls and pull that wood down, do they need to re-sheet off, or can they patch the existing? That kind of thing is going to happen along the way. So,
okay. But do you want to have a not to exceed or not? Wait.
well, I think for Jenny's protection, we should put some sort of figure together, and if we have overruns, I think we have to address the time. So I'd be comfortable just going with a solid figure, whatever you feel is necessary.
Okay.
Wait, I think just moving that $10,000 from admin project fund into complex will be fine. Complex, has still some funds available from other, when we get close to the end of the year, it's always really tight, but we think that'll cover all of the expenses that will be from now until the end of the year. Probably, there'll be some left over, and then there's some funding in the 2021 budget for the completion. So we're just trying to get that as close as possible, and we're not going to spend the funds if they're not needed, and I don't see us going over that amount in 2020.
Okay. Sorry, yeah, good.
All right. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Pavlik.
Pavlik, aye.
McBride.
Aye.
Chobam.
Aye.
Skoy.
Aye.
And I am an aye. Okay, approve extension committee member appointment.
Mr. Chair, I would move to reappoint Mr. Lynn Belangi to another term with the county extension. He has agreed to that appointment.
Okay, great. Do I have a second?
Skoy, second.
Okay, I've got a motion by McBride, second by Skoy, and I think I'm going to get booted here again real quick. But we'll try this. I'll call for the vote. Pavlik?
Aye.
McBride?
Aye.
Chobam?
Aye.
Skoy?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. And I see Marty is on. Marty, do you have anything you want to say?
This is a 3-year appointment starting in 2021, and we look forward to having Lynn on the committee continuing. And Brian, we want to just say a special thank you for your service on the Extension Committee as well.
Thank you, Marty, and I'd also like to thank you for all your years of service. If you don't know, Marty's going to be retiring the same time I am. So, and she has been the heart of Extension Northeastern Minnesota, so thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank
How
you.
many years you have in there, Marty?
A little over 40.
Wow.
How could that happen? I'm just 21.
Well, thank you for all of us for the service.
Yep, exactly. So, all right, thank you, Marty.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Before you go to the next one, agreement, can we have Marty just quickly discuss or explain that to us, and then we can either have a motion to approve or deny. So.
Great. Absolutely. So the Extension Committee had discussion with our 4-H youth development staff, and this is a request for the 2021 addendum to the current 3-year memorandum of agreement for the 4-H program, a 4-H extension educator position. Currently, the position is funded by the county at halftime, and there are grant funds that bring the position to benefit level at 75%. Due to some grant reductions, the Extension Committee is respectfully asking for the position to be funded through the amendment, through the Memorandum of Agreement amendment from 0.5 to 0.625, so adding 12 and a half hours, and then the remaining balance of hours would be funded through grant funds that are available. So this has gone through the budget process and discussion, and so the cost difference is $9,407 from 0.5 to 0.625 for 2021. And so we respectfully request your consideration for this addendum to be approved based on levy funding in the amount of $47,035 for 2021.
Mr. Chair, I would move.
A second, Mr. Chair.
You have a second? I think we lost Kevin.
There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, I kind of disappeared for about a half a minute, I guess.
You never know what you're up to.
I know. But, any further discussion? You know, it's an excellent program, and you know, I grew up in 4-H myself, so. But if there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Pavlik.
You grew up in 4-H. Do we have to blame them?
Well, partially.
I'll vote aye.
McBride.
Aye.
Tobin.
Aye.
Troy.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Thank you, Marty.
Thank you so much, Marty.
Thank you.
And
very
good luck
much.
to you.
And a
Enjoy
special,
your retirement.
yeah, thank you. And a special shout out to Commissioner McBride and Jenny for all your extra work and effort in supporting this request. Appreciate it greatly. Have a great afternoon.
Yep. All right. Approve extension we already did that one. Approve International Voyager Snowmobile Club. Minnesota Lawful Gambling, LG 214, premises permit, application for Thunderbird Lodge.
Say that fast 3 times, huh?
Yeah.
I'll move, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Commissioner Pavlik. Commissioner Schobel. Is there anybody here from the Snowmobile Club, or? I guess not. Okay, any discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. Pavlik.
Aye.
McBride.
Aye.
quick thing. Well, we can go ahead and do that. But you have, Jen, that the video thing with AMC is December 8th. It's actually December 7th.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, the AMC conference is December 7th. So.
Yep. On the calendar thing you gave us, you had December 8th.
Oh, that was old. Yeah, that was for last year before they rescheduled that. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I would move to add December 1st meeting and the KDA meeting, I believe is December 15th.
Yeah.
I thought the KDA was the first also.
15th.
Oh, that was the 15th. Okay, yep.
Okay, so you're moving the KCDA meeting to the 15th then, not the 1st.
KDA meeting. Wait.
Okay, the KCDA meeting. Oh, no, the KDA meeting. I'll get the
KDA. Yeah. Scratch the C. Okay, I've got a motion by McBride. Do I have a second?
Second.
Who wants to take that?
Jason.
Okay, was that you, Jason?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Sedlick.
Sedlick, aye.
McBride.
Aye.
Strobel.
Aye.
Skoye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Discuss Chamber of Commerce, Bacchus, AB, and museum funding needs. I know there's a few people on there for that. Jen, Tricia, I think Ward is on there somewhere.
Good afternoon. Yeah, and the museum is here as well. I see them on.
Okay.
So I think this is Tricia with the chamber. I will start first and then let the others kind of go in. I'm just here really representing the chamber as I believe we each are individually. And there's just a couple items that I wanted to bring forward to the county. You know, number one is that we, the three of our organizations, at least, pending in the city's current draft of their 2021 budget, have significant cuts to our organizations. And so oftentimes in the discussion with the city around our contract, the question is raised as to, who does or doesn't else contribute into the chamber locally in regards to local government and, does the county contribute or not, and other cities within the county. And so I think that part of my wanting to come here today was to help close that loop and provide any education to the community, to our members, to others about, the possibility of existence of partner funding with the county or not, and for us to kind of explain how that may or may not work. And, second would be my request to the county for consideration for the chamber if any CARES funding remains available, as we did not receive funding through the initial rounds that were done by the committee. And so, just admittedly through some confusion of ours, but, while we were in the middle of a pandemic, these level budget cuts are really, just speaking for the chamber and our budget, they are really going to have a large impact on the chamber and how the chamber moves forward into the 2021 and 2022 fiscal years, as we all just kind of sit in this unknown currently, that, our businesses have, we've all had conversations, for those of you who are on the county COVID calls that we've been meeting on, they're representing our business climate and how we're tempering, and we've seen, fortunately, not too many business closures locally, but we're hearing from our businesses of how they're suffering through lack of business, not only due to the COVID pandemic, but the secondary hit that our businesses take of being a border community and the loss of Canadian consumers. I mean, they make up in our community roughly like 30% of our consumer base. So even as restaurants, retail, and service organizations have been allowed to open with restrictions, there's a chunk of who's available to come in and participate with them is greatly diminished. And so as a nonprofit organization, we're really seeing those effects, as many others are, of what income is coming into the chamber. Our membership dues have been down as businesses are really, kind of holding tight where they need to funds and seeing what they need for their own businesses and making considerations of what can go out. And then as an organization, our ability to hold about 90% of the events that the chamber does annually, which bring in additional income to our organization through sponsorships, admissions, fundraisers, raffles, and things like that, have also been greatly impacted by the COVID restrictions and really not able to hold. So we sit in a position where we need support at this point, and the organizations that we have available to us to approach our local government offices right now. The chamber being part of what is in the nonprofit designation a trade organization. We are a 501c6 and not a 501c3. We have to date been ineligible for any of the federal or state monies that have come out. The EIDL loans, the PPP loans, and those type of things where 501c3 organizations could apply. The sixes have not been. We continue to lobby for that to change, hopefully in future legislative sessions on both state and or federal levels. So we really come to see if there's any option or opportunity with the county. And I think, I don't know if you're addressing us individually or kind of as a group. Again, Ward and Ashley are both there as well, if they are adding in for their organizations or how the county would like to talk with us.
We might Mr. Chair, we might hear from everybody. So.
Jenny and Chairman AD, if I can jump in here quick from Bacchus. Jenny, I think did you receive a couple of graphs from us this morning that we could pop up in a minute here too?
Yes, I did, and I've got them ready to go.
Okay. First of all, let me just thank the county for your generous support and encouragement to apply for some of those CARES and COVID grants to support our meal programs. Those have been really critical in meeting that need in our community, and we really appreciate that. Also, just to shout out, Marty was on here earlier, and for years, Bacchus has been able to partner with the countywide 4-H program on a pretty good-sized Otto Bremer grant that's helped support that position and the programming throughout the county. We had a real bump in the road earlier this year when our request for $134,000 of general operating support to Bremer was reduced to $50,000 for the next 12 months. That hurt us as far as general operating expenses, and we did manage to still give or allocate $10,000 towards the 4-H program, but both our organizations took an unexpected hit from that loss of Otto Bremer funding, which makes local funding all the more important to us too. We do have a request pending with the city. They have been funding us the last year or two at $55,000 a year. We're still waiting for a final decision on that. We're hopeful that they may come in at that amount if possible. Lois Lundeen and Wah Sapchinsky made a pitch last evening at the city's Budget and Finance Committee meeting, and they perhaps could talk more about that too. But thank you for the funding you've provided in the past. All of you have been so encouraging and supportive of Bacchus that it's just tremendous. The support that you provide also helps us leverage other dollars from other funders, such as the Otto Bremer Trust. If we can show that the local levels of government support what we're doing, it means a lot to those funders. It shows local commitment, and that's what they like to see. If that commitment drops to zero or that funding, it makes us harder to leverage other dollars because they view that as a lack of support for the local community. And I'm sure that's true with other organizations as well. Local support means a lot when you're looking for other grant dollars to bring into the community. The cafe, we have a funding project underway right now online and through Facebook called Feed Just One. It's to support the cafe, and through the generous help of Janelle Feller from Friends Against Abuse and Ashley Hall from the Falls Hunger Coalition, those gals have put together a great campaign to raise $20,000 for the cafe in the next 15 days. So anybody that's viewing or listening here, if you go online to the Bacchus site, you'll hopefully find a place that you can make a donation. We're seeking $20,000 to help fund that program for next year. The cafe, as I think I've told you before, went from about 50 meals a night on average, January, February, early March, and grew very quickly to 70 to 120 to 190. We're now serving about an average of 250 meals a night. Last Thursday's meal served 308 people last Thursday. Tonight we have a roast turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy, vegetables, dairy products, and so forth. The calls for coming in have been overwhelming in the office today for that. The two charts that you see there show on the bottom, first of all, 2013 was our first year to do the cafe, and those totals you see there are the yearly meals that we served. They averaged to 5,911 per year, and then we hit 2020. 2020 is depicted above. We go from about 400 meals a month in January and February. On March 17th, we switched to a pickup system to follow the directives, the health directives for the pandemic, and you see what's happened every month since then. We're now averaging 250 plus. We project that if this pandemic continues, the need is going to be rising to 300. That really puts the screws to our kitchen crew and our volunteers to produce that many meals. But we're doing a good job. Our volunteers, our Bacchus staff are doing an amazing job providing those meals and serving them in quick order as a pickup service. But that shows you where we're at, and we feel the annual budget has been about $30,000 a year to fund the cafe. Local groups, grant funders, and so forth have been helpful to fund that program. We project that cost is going to go to $90,000 a year or more coming up if this continues into 2021. But Lois and Wah, perhaps you can chime in here with some comments as well. And if you have questions, we'll sure answer them at any point.
Thanks, Warren. This is Lois. Word summed everything up beautifully. It's been really interesting to watch the activities at our community cafe continue to grow today. We have some additional food that we're going to be providing to people, and we're also giving them flyers to make them aware of additional food opportunities that are going to be available to the community through the Thanksgiving holiday. to help carry them over while Community Cafe does not end on the Thanksgiving holiday. It has been tremendously busy. The stories that are coming from the folks that talk about their needs have been just incredible. It's hard to put a face on because need varies so much. It can be anything from people having financial needs to people who don't know how to cook, don't know how to prepare meals, people who are simply gathering with their neighbors to bring meals to one another. We're seeing more of an outreach into our community. People are picking up meals, taking them out to areas that are a little further out into the Koochiching County area. To people who are not able to come in to go to Community Cafe, but their needs for food are just as great. We're partnering with the food shelf here in town to find a way so that we can get some of those food issues, those needs addressed in the more outlying areas of our community. Jenny, we have another graph that we brought that we wanted to share with everybody, and that's about Ruby's Pantry. I don't know if you can pull that one up for us, please. Ruby's Pantry continues to run strong in Koochiching County. We just had our November distribution, and you can see here that the numbers of meals, or the numbers, shares that are going out into the community are being strong. In November, we had 246 shares go out into the community. We had about 17 tons of food on the truck this last month, so that was quite remarkable. We had 50 volunteers in-house harvesting the food out of the gym. It was all bundled into shares and put into the cars of people, and it went out across Koochiching County. We have people who carpool from Starford as War Road and Badette who come to get food. They all really have very positive things to say about the good impact that this has on their families, their ability to stretch and make ends meet during these really trying times. There's also, I'd like to, I can call your attention to a video that's out on Facebook right now that was posted by KCC TV. It's also out on YouTube. You can go out and view. And it gives you a quick, if you haven't been to Ruby's Pantry, you might want to take a quick tour of the Ruby's Pantry operation. It was very well done. Jenny, there's one more document, and it shows the impact of COVID-19 to the back end center. It just lists out the areas where we have felt some very significant hits from the pandemic. It shows a reduction. We've seen our income has decreased in performing arts, our learning arts, our fundraising and activities, and you can see those percentages here. This is significant for Bacchus, and so we look for our local funding to help us out in to make up for some of these shortfalls. So we appreciate tremendously the $26,000 that was given to Bacchus from the county last year, and we respectfully come ask that you consider our request for the $31,000 this year.
Anybody have any questions for Lois or Ward?
I think Ashley is on coming in.
Yes, Ashley, I'm here.
Excuse me for just a moment. Let me ask everybody who's not speaking to mute because we're getting a lot of feedback. So if everybody could mute, if you're not speaking, that would be helpful.
So we had put in a request through the city for 2021 for $35,000. We still have a request into the city right now, but they have cut us by over 50%. And these cuts to the museum are going to be significant on what we are going to be able to do in the coming year. Our admission with COVID has already been down nearly 50%. And with the loss to the funding, you know, this is going to severely impact a lot of the programming that we provide, not just to the citizens of International Falls, but countywide. We have history on tap programming. We go all the way to North Home. We have all of our gallery exhibits everywhere. And because we've been able to expand our programming, we've been getting a lot more donations from all of the community members in Koochiching. And with the increase in these donations, there's a higher cost in care to these collections. We already have over 10,000 pieces in our collection and over 1 million pieces in our archival collection. And so there's just a lot of added expense. We've had added expense this year with our roofing project, which the county graciously helped us with. We really appreciate that funding to help get the Bronco Museum fixed up and that roofing project squared away. But then we also had our air conditioner go out. That needed to be fixed. That was over $2,000 in unexpected project expenses. And so, you know, I guess we're just looking to see if the county has any available CARES funding where they can provide to help fill this gap that the city is creating. Because without those funds, I mean, the funding that we're asking for isn't very much to begin with. It's just enough to really just pay the bills and keep the building open. And we provide so many services to the citizens of the county and the tourists that come here. And we get a lot of positive response to those programs and to our museum that, you know, we want to be able to keep providing those things. The visitors that come here are always wildly impressed with the museum. They think we have a wonderful collection. They love the gift shop, and they recommend it to other people when they are out, if they're traveling and they know that their friends are coming here. So we want to make sure that we're able to continue to provide that same quality of museum care and exhibits to these people. And so that's really what we're looking for is possibly some extra help from the county.
Any questions from anyone?
Well, Kevin, this is Wade. I guess I don't have a question. I mean, I'm dumbfounded that I can't understand why the city, at a time when the needs are the most, would cut the funding for these three organizations is just beyond belief to me. I mean, I can go right down the line. You start with the chamber. You look at all the businesses that depend on this. In my own district here, I've got 2 houseboat operations, 3 resorts, you know, all the way down into Little Fork. I mean, this covers a big area, and this is not a time that they should be defunded. The Historical Society, you folks have spoken well for, you know, look at the advances we've made there, and the visitation is up, and the improvements that have been made. That facility is right here in International Falls. They benefit, and again, cutting the funding, it's like they're kind of cutting their own throat, so to speak. Backus, what can I say? And Ward, what a job you've done. And I know you're going to be leaving us or trying to bail up. Well, I don't blame you. But how you've improved that and what that means to the community. International Falls is the largest beneficiary because that's where, you know, it's closer here. But people from outside International Falls use it too. Can't thank you enough for what you folks have done, all 3 of your organizations. So again, I guess we don't have a final say from the city until they release their budget. But I just don't think it's going to be good for the county or the city to let these organizations, you know, start dissolving because they can't be funded. It just, I've seen crazy things in 28 years I've been doing this, but to do that kind of cut at the time when it's most needed by these organizations just doesn't make sense to me. So, thank you.
chamber, they serve more than just the businesses within International Falls, right?
Correct. The chamber was actually founded under the name the Greater International Falls Civic and Commerce Association because the intent has always been to be broader than just city limits, but to serve the whole area. So we DBA as the International Falls Area Chamber, and our rules, so to speak, for who can and can't join is really around anybody who does business in or around the city of International Falls. So while 80% of our members exist within the city limits, 20% of our membership is outside, and that could be some, as Commissioner Pavlik mentioned, in the outlying Koochiching County area, and it could be also members who are in, we have members from like Bemidji and Grand Rapids and other communities like that because they provide services to our local community, and they recognize the importance and the role of the chamber and an opportunity to kind of network into our community.
Thank you. I've got a question for Ward, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Ward, where is Bacchus located? What city? No, you're muted, Ward.
Commissioner Bacchus is located right near International Falls, 900 5th Street.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Bacchus is asking for an additional 5,000. Looks like museum is asking for extra 6,500. And Trish, what is your shortfall there?
So the amount, again, the city hasn't finalized what their budget is, but the initial amount that was proposed to be cut from our contract with them was $30,000. So that's a big gap, and I don't, so whatever I do, right? I mean, that's a huge ask to come to the county. I've had conversations with some of the commissioners as well as Jenny around the options of, how counties can and can't potentially engage with chambers and fund them and what that would need to look like. I think that part of the request from us today is also around whether or not there's flexibility in any potentially remaining CARES funds that the county may have. I had a conversation also last week when we were setting up the meeting with the administrator on that topic of funding and what happened with the committee and, what was the chamber in on that. And, admittedly, we missed the deadline, but I didn't, see anything in the paper back in September. So when I applied for the CARES funding on October 14th, the application was still live on the website, admittedly, until this morning, and there was no deadline indication of when funding was ending. And a week after we applied, there was an article in the newspaper that talked about, from a KETA meeting, all of the increased applications coming in on like October 21st or 20th, and, saying that there was potential for a fifth round of funding, and they were anticipating potentially another $80,000 coming into that fund. So it was really just in conversation last week where we realized that we potentially were getting even the $5,000 through the CARES Act, and we had been hoping even for something under that heading. So I don't know if there's any flexibility with that or where that option is either. Knowing that the relationship of any funding option between, if I may, Chair, between the chamber and the county is relatively unprecedented. Our intention of approaching the commissioners today was really to find if there was option in opening, and then if there is, then we would address and kind of work with the county on what that would look like and what we would need to provide a request under any of those limitations or things that may come from. So we didn't necessarily expect a yay or nay from the county board today. It was really more just the options for creating the opening of discussion and something out the potential.
Anybody else have anything?
Chairman, if I can just say a word here quick too. Commissioner McBride, we did request, I believe last year we were funded in total at this year $26,000, and Bacchus requested $31,000 total for 2021. We did request from the city of actually $65,000, but we would look to this year's amount of $55,000 from the city. Their preliminary budget proposed $25,000 to Bacchus for a $30,000 cut to what we've been receiving from the city the last few years. We haven't, our request there of $31,000 was just based on, it wasn't based on any notification of cuts or anything from the city. That's just what we had asked for initially in our request this past summer to the county.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm just to address the Bacchus issue right now. I mean, if the city goes ahead and cuts that amount of money from what they budgeted Bacchus through the years and what the need is now, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do. And I don't know what the city plans are doing. I mean, I can't imagine that kind of cut to an organization that does that so much.
And when they need it the most.
Mr. Chair, this is Ashley. I would just like to clarify our budget cut. I don't know if it was super clear. We have been budgeted $24,000 to $30,000 from the city of International Falls for the past several years, and we had increased our budget request to $35,000 for 2021 because the increase for the cost of the Bronco Annex has been exponential. Over the last 2 years, we are now carrying almost $20,000 debt for the city through county funding, and so we had increased that request to $35,000, and they have dropped our funding down to $15,000. So I just wanted to clarify the expenses there from the Bronco Museum's portion and what we're asking for. So yeah, thank you.
Well, maybe not all of the commissioners may have that history, but the Bronco museum portion was, kind of done by the city, and then over the years, that's been the arrangement. The city has paid a portion because of that annex to the original museum, which the county was funding. So that's the history there. I think to Brian's point, it is frustrating at this late hour to be trying to deal with this, and we apparently still don't know where the city's final decision is going to be or what the amount's going to be. From what I understand, at least that's what it sounds like I'm hearing from these three organizations, which puts us in a tight spot to try to help too right now. And we've got the other cities there, Windsor and North Home, and I've got, of course, Little Fork, and then there's Big Falls, and, we've got to watch out for them too, but I don't think they're in any kind of situation like these organizations that have been put in here with the city's decisions.
Well, folks, where do we go? Jen, we meet December 1st. I know if the city's going to have their final budget numbers out, then so these organizations would know where they're standing. But I don't know. Do we talk about it again next week? I know these people, they need to know where they're at, but.
Mr. Chair, we do have a committee of the whole meeting scheduled after this meeting today to talk about the budget. And actually, there were a couple things that were still pending, and one of those was the backuses. At that point, when we initially discussed, we didn't make any decisions. Because we wanted to hear from Ward, and we did talk to Ward a couple meetings ago, I think. Him and Ron, they kind of went over their budget request. One of the things that we did talk about earlier on in the budget is I think that the Historical Society did do a slight increase of request, as they usually do each year, ask for just a little bit more. And typically what we've done, and this is what we did last year, we put them back to their original request, or to the previous year's request. But then if they have a specific project that comes up that they need funding for, then we take a look at that. And so last year, that was the roof project that needed to be completed. So we funded them, with the regular amount. I think it's $78,500, plus there was another $9,000 for the roof. And that's sort of generally been, if there's something that comes up that has not been funded with the museum, then we take a look at that at a later date. And sometimes it helps to have a little bit of time in the budget so we know a little, in the year to see where we sit. But there's always some contingency funds that I set aside for specific projects like that. The challenge with the Chamber's request for direct funding, and this is not through CARES Act, is that by statute, we are allowed to go ahead and donate specifically to museums, historical societies, to food shelves, to artistic community groups, and so but the Chamber does not fall under those guidelines. So one of the requirements is if we are going to fund the Chamber, and this is not using CARES Act funds, then they have to provide a contract for services. They have to provide some services to the county. And so I think that when Tricia and I talked last week, I think they're brainstorming a little bit to see what kind of services that they could possibly provide to the county, and then that would allow us to fund. The other thing that happened last week was we did have a request from the TITA office, who is they are administering the CARES Act grants for nonprofits and businesses, and they did mention that, and they did ask us a specific request to fund that application to the Chamber. It was late, and then there was another business that also had to close, that was not expecting to have to close, but they had to close due to COVID, and they have a request in. And the CARES Act committee could make that decision. We talked about meeting last week. I thought it probably would be a better idea for the CARES Act committee to wait until after we had this discussion at board. And so, we can certainly talk about that in the CARES Act committee about funding that late application.
So, Jen, if we did that, what does that do to our following request here with CARES Act funding?
It's not a significant amount of money. Nonprofits are limited to $5,000. So, it's not very significant in terms of the $1.6 million that the county received. Of which, at the next meeting, we're going to kind of go over where all of those funds went and how we really made an effort to try to get those funds out to the community. We did fund food delivery programs. We funded both the food shelf and Bacchus because they have had some legitimate expenses, additional expenses for food delivery because of COVID. They've had a greater demand. They've had less use of volunteers. They've had an increase of food costs. So all of those things we realized and tried to get that funding to those people that were most in need. I guess my my point is that we're going to discuss this at the committee of the whole, and we can make some budget decisions at that time after this meeting. And then, that will be whatever decisions or recommendations you make. That will be included in the final budget that we're going to present, and then have the truth and taxation hearing, or the hearing about the budget before we adopt that.
So getting back to the chamber, did they submit the necessary paperwork, even though supposedly it was late? Did it qualify? That would be my question.
Brian, you're breaking up a little bit, but yes, they did. We have all the documentation that we need for that fund, that request.
Okay.
So for right now, you just want to table this until we have our committee of the whole and stuff later?
Yes, it was primarily a discussion item.
Yeah, we're not in a position to take any action today, but I think that it's something that needs to be addressed here. I mean, we're at this critical juncture, and where we're at, talking about businesses closing and something, this is not the time to do what the city is doing and chop the legs out from underneath these organizations. I mean, it's just crazy. And I think even before you were there, Kevin, you go back to the old history, cities didn't have money to, or at least, they weren't always able to fund the chamber the way they should, or, Little Fort, International Falls, etc. So we set up that deal. That's why the city get money from the county. No other county in Minnesota does this. We take some of our timber funds each year, and we spread that out to the cities, and we did that specifically for International Falls so they could fund their chamber. And here they're cutting it. So I mean, the county has done a lot over the years, and yet, things seem to be going backwards here. It's just kind of frustrating that in a year like this, when it's most needed, I can't understand what everyone's thinking here. We've got to keep things going, and So anyway, we're on the right path. The next step is exactly that, Jenny. I appreciate that. We'll go from there.
So I would just say that we need to, if we're going to have a quick committee of the whole after have discussion, and next week, so these three groups know where they're sitting, whether we're going to act on their funding or not.
So does somebody want to make a motion to table it?
Move to table until December 1st. Second time.
There's actually nothing to table because there was no action.
No action.
No action taken?
We don't need a motion.
All right. Rescind.
Okay, that's fine.
So what's that old saying that the three organizations here, we're behind you, way behind you. We'll see what we can do here.
Next is CARES Act business. Do we want to take each of those at a time, Jen, or? Yeah. Okay. Approve use of CARES Act funds for out-of-home placement. Is Kathy on?
I don't know if she is. We've reviewed this in the CARES Act committee meeting, and the consultants also reviewed this request, and so and they felt that it qualifies to be funded with CARES Act funds. What had happened is we had a juvenile that needed to be placed in a facility. It was a court order. AJC, who we normally place those, this juvenile would have been placed in. They denied the placement because of COVID, and it was early on. There wasn't a lot of testing available, and so, and we already pay for that through our Arrowhead Regional Corrections contract. But we had to place this juvenile in and out of in a different location, and then additional county dollars had to pay for that of $11,782, and so the committee is recommending that CARES Act fund be used for reimbursement to the Public Health and Human Services for that placement.
I would move on that, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Commissioner Schroeder.
I got it. Skoye, second.
Second by Commissioner Skoye. Discussion. Okay, now I'll call for the vote. Commissioner Pavlik?
Aye.
Commissioner McBride?
Aye.
Commissioner Schroeder?
Aye.
Commissioner Skoye?
Aye.
And I am an aye. Approve use of CARES Act funds for Public Health and Human Services space renovation.
Then move on that as well.
And this was reviewed by... Okay.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Schroeder.
Great.
Do I have a second?
I'll second for discussion. Jenny, did you have something to add to that?
I just wanted to let you know that the committee did review this. This is space that that the food shop was in. They relocated to Bacchus, and this space was actually, the timing worked really well for the county, because when they meet with clients, they need additional space, and this allows them to social distance. They only have a couple conference rooms right now, and one is also used for an investigation room. And so this will allow them space to meet with clients and social distance.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add to that, Wade?
No, thank you, Jenny. Appreciate it.
Okay. Wishes of the board. I already got the motion in the second, don't I?
Yep, I'm ready to say yes.
Okay, Commissioner Pavlik is a yes. Commissioner McBride?
Aye.
Mr. Schroeder?
Aye.
Mr. Skoye?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Approve use of CARES funds for unbudgeted payroll.
Move, Mr. Chair.
Was that Brian?
Yes.
Okay, motion by Commissioner McBride. Do I have a second? Wayne, was that you?
Yeah, Skoye, second.
Okay, second by Commissioner Skoye. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Commissioner Pavlik?
Aye.
Commissioner McBride?
Aye.
Mr. Schroeder?
Aye.
Commissioner Skoye?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Approve use of CARES Act funds for City of North Home.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to take a little bit more of your time, if I may. Small cities that had population over 200 did not get a direct allocation of CARES Act funds, and so the county actually got a little bit extra allocation for those small cities. I worked with Morgan at the City of North Home, and we went over. She did a great job, and I want to give her credit for that. They had a municipal liquor store that was closed down, and so a lot of the expenses that were associated with still maintaining the utilities and the unemployment claims, those were all allowable claims under the CARES Act. They also had a little bit of PPE that they had, and I received this with all of the receipts. The CARES Act consultants reviewed it, and they thought all of these were acceptable. The amount is $34,942. And the committee is recommending that the board approve this allocation.
Okay. Was that a motion, Wayne?
Yes.
Okay, got a motion by Commissioner Skoye. Do I have a second? McBride.
Aye.
Schobel.
Aye.
Skoye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Let's see. Approve use of CARES Act funds for Arrowhead Regional Corrections.
Move, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Commissioner Schobel.
Second.
By Commissioner Pavlik. Any discussion?
Jenny, didn't we have a couple of refusals over there?
You know what? I missed that whole motion. Kevin, you're breaking up. Are you on the ARC request right now?
I will, let me redo it here. Hang on.
Well, it's okay now.
the total sale value of the timber that we sold in 2020 is just a hair over what 2019's numbers were. But looking at delivered wood or what our timber that has been cut or scaled this year, we are lagging behind 2019 a bit. So some of that can change here in the next month and a half, but that's kind of the story on the lands and forestry front on the timber update. So, unless anybody has any questions.
Nathan?
Yep.
Looks like right now with the floor being pretty dry and maybe looks like some stuff freezing up, we're getting some early access to some of the better areas.
Yeah, we're starting to see even this week we've had a few folks want to go in and open up timber sales, but on the flip side, it'll be interesting just to see what our scale volumes look like in December. You know, looking at the wood yard here in town, they've got quite a bit of inventory on hand compared to what they normally do for this time of year. So that could affect things a little bit. But yeah, so far without a lot of snow. And we went into this season fairly dry, as you mentioned. It should be a good freeze up, hopefully. So.
Good. Anybody else have any questions for Nathan?
Yes, Nathan. This is Wayne. What was the total cordage volume sold
For the year on this last auction?
No, for the year.
Based on our appraisals, it was 100,382 total cords is what we sold in 20.
Okay, 103,000 cords.
100,382. So basically 100,000 cords. Yep.
Yeah, 100,000 cords. Gotcha.
Yep.
Anybody else have any questions? All right. Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you.
Public Health and Human Service Business. Kathy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
The first thing on the agenda is approve renewal of the Tri-Min Systems CMHS service agreement. This is our computer support for our agency collection system and our social welfare system, and nothing has changed. With this, the cost remains the same.
Wishes of the board.
Move to approve.
Motion by McBride.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Skoye. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Pavlik.
Aye.
McBride.
Aye.
Schobum.
Sorry, aye.
Skoye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, Kathy.
Numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5 are all purchase of service agreements. Do you want me to just run through them and do them together?
Yes. That should work.
Okay. The first one is the Friends Against Abuse, and that is for our contract with them, our purchase of service for supervised visitations, and there's no change to that, no dollar amount change. The next one is the AUA Stay Purchase of Service Agreement, which is also known as our Independent Living Skills program, and nothing has changed with that. Cost has stayed the same. The AUA Congregate Meals Purchase of Service has stayed the same, cost the same, and so has the AUA Volunteer Driver Purchase of Service Agreement.
Wishes of the board. Motion by Commissioner Pavlik.
Second, Mr. Chair.
By Commissioner Schobum. Any discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. Pavlik.
Aye.
Right.
Aye.
Schobum.
Aye.
Skoye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. All right, thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Highway business. Trent's on IC.
Yeah, I guess I'll be doing it.
Okay.
Kevin, Dave. Basically, the first one is to authorize to advertise for bids SAP 036 601 014, and this is for the Casad 1 bridge replacement over the Bear River. This is one we've been seeking funding for a number of years. In October of this year, we received a 2021 grant from MnDOT for $311,150 to replace this bridge. The Highway Department would like to advertise for bids on this project in early 2021. The engineer's estimate is $684,966.15, with, of course, $311,100.50 coming from the state, and then the remainder, $373,865, $373,000, $865.65 in Casad construction funding. And basically what we're going to do is replace the deteriorated bridge with a new bridge. The old bridge was built in the 1950s, and the new bridge, instead of a bridge, it will be 3 lines of box culverts. Two of them 14 inches and one of them 16 inches.
I hope those are feet, Dave.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm going to let Brent do this from now on.
I would move to motion to approve, to advertise.
Okay, I've got a motion by Commissioner McBride.
I'll second Brian's motion, Mr. Chair.
Second by Commissioner Pavlik. Any discussion? All right. Hearing none, I'll call for the motion. Pavlik.
Aye.
McBride.
Aye.
Schobum.
Aye.
Scotty.
Aye.
And I'm an aye also. Okay, Dave.
Okay, the next one is what? I can't hear.
We're still getting a whole lot of feedback. If everybody can mute when you're not speaking, I think that will help. And then, Kevin, I think you'd be better off just turning your video off, and you'd have better bandwidth.
Okay, I'll start. The next one is to authorize to bid SAP 036 620-10, and this is for the Casad 20 Rainier angle parking. This one's come up to you guys twice before. We asked to advertise. We did not advertise for a couple reasons. One is there was some issues with some of the funding not being participating, mainly that we needed to get the city of Rainier to provide some of the funding, and the other was when we updated the estimate. So this has come to you guys before. In March and July, we asked to advertise this project. We have redone the design a little bit, and we have also came up with a new engineer's estimate. And like I said, the state indicated that some of the project was not eligible for state funding, what they would call non-participating. The city of Rainier passed a resolution to pay for the non-participating costs on August 18th. The new engineer's estimate is for $521,371.32, with $484,092.82 in participating, and that'll come out of our Casad municipal construction, and $37,278.50 in non-participating, and this is what Rainier has agreed to fund. And basically, I think you're familiar with the project. It's to improve the parking in downtown Rainier, add some ADA compliant, rebuild the road between Oak Street and the CN crossing, and it will improve drainage, and aesthetics. Our goal would be to get this project out as early as possible in 2021. So we'd like to award it as soon as possible, and we'd like to start construction as soon as road restrictions come off in May. And we're going to try to shoot for our target completion date before the 4th of July holiday.
Well, I'll move, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank Dave and Trent. I mean, they worked hard on this to get this thing going. It's been quite an obstacle, of course. So. Anyway, I'll move. Thank you.
Sounds like we're short-handed again.
Kevin again?
Like someone banging a garbage can.
Well, I dropped out too. My screen just went blank.
Oh, wow.
But I'm back now. There we go. Wow.
Okay, I'm back.
Good to have you, Kevin.
Yeah. Okay. Are we ready for a vote?
Yes.
I had a motion by Talbot, but I don't know who did the second.
Brian.
Okay.
Okay. Was there any discussion?
Where were you at?
I have no idea. Well, that's in between work, so. All right, I'll call for the motion. Tabak.
Aye.
McBride.
Aye.
Strobel.
Aye.
Goy.
Aye.
And I am an aye. All right, thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Okay, environmental service business.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, sure can.
We're back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Matt. Really good.
Okay. So,
Can't see you though, Matt.
I better see if I can. I don't want to lock everything up here. I've been bopping in and out too, so I don't want to add additional chaos to the bandwidth here. But so I have a few items in front of the board here. The first one is approve a three-year contracts for waste canister attendance for each of our canister sites throughout the county. We have 7 sites, and I noticed in the board action requested I had an error. I did not include Big Falls, so Jenny, if you could just add that, make sure we have Big Falls listed on that one too. As you guys know, the operations of our canister sites are, really, within the county are really important services, and we advertise for bids to provide waste canister site attendance over the next 3 years. I tabulated the bid results in the attached the documentation that you guys have, and I recommend awarding 3-year contracts to the low bidder at each site. The increase, overall is about a 2% increase across the board. Our yearly cost for, including all 7 canister sites is, with the new contracts would be $49,632 yearly. So I think it's a good value, and I would recommend moving forward.
Got a motion by Mr. Tabak.
Scoy, second.
Second, Mr. Skoye. Any discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. Tabak.
Aye.
McBride.
Aye.
Strobel.
Aye.
Skoye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye.
Thank you. So the next item is approving a 3-year contract with Jim's Disposal for services of hauling the waste from the canister sites.
Big Falls, Birchdale, Little Fork, Lowman, Mizpah, and Ray. We have a different contractor that hauls from our Silverdale site, which you've already addressed in a previous action. It's an important service that we have someone going out to those locations to pick them up. We advertised for bids for a 3-year contract, and we tabulated that information for you. The bid, the low bidder, Jim's disposal, actually the total price is decreased, and you can see it in the information. Percentage-wise, it's decreased by quite a bit, but the total contract amount is not a lot. But they provide an important service, and I would recommend awarding the 3-year contract to the low bidder, Jim's disposal.
What's the board?
Skoy will move.
Motion by Skoy.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Second by Schulblum. Any discussion? Okay, hearing that, I'll call for the vote. Pavlik.
Aye.
Bright.
Aye.
Schulblum.
Aye.
Skoy.
Aye.
And I'm an aye.
Thank you. So the last item that I have on the agenda is renew the Mizpah demolition roll-off box contract. Friends Garbage Service is currently contracted to provide the hauling service from the Mizpah canister site and was the only bidder for this important service. In 2019, the cost of this service was just a little over $5,000. Under the new contract pricing, the same annual volume would cost about $7,940. Although this is an increase, these prices have not changed in many years. This contract would run from December 1st, 2020 through November 30th, 2023. And again, I would recommend approval of this contract with Friends Garbage Service.
So that's like a 50% increase?
An increase, I don't have the exact percentage, but yeah, it's a substantial increase, but contract is not a lot. I mean, they go to Mizpah, they pick up the demolition, and then they transport it to Big Falls demolition site. Again, it's important to provide the service to those people that are needing to drop off demolition in the southern part of the county, and without that, they would have to transport it all the way to Big Falls in order to dispose of that material properly. But yes, it is an increase, but we put it out for bids, and we only received one bid.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Which is the board?
I'll move on it. This Wayne.
Motion by Skoy.
Second.
Second by Pavlik. Any discussion? Hearing that, I'll call for the vote. Pavlik.
Aye.
Bright.
Aye.
Schulblum.
Aye.
Skoy.
Aye.
And I am an aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I missed who that second was. I heard the first by Skoy, but I did not hear the second.
I was Schulblum, wasn't it?
Pavlik.
Pavlik, okay, yep.
What was the second?
Pavlik.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, any other business to come before the board? All right. At this time, is there anybody online for public service? Public comment? Nobody for public comment?